Welcome back. This is Julie Baranick, host of the Seven Figure Builder Show, and I'm here today with my friend Alyssa Lange. Hey, Alyssa.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And you are incredible. You've got so much we're going to talk about, but I know you've got your multiple businesses. You are a bookkeeping consultant, public speaker, podcast host, two-year nominee for the Ignition's Top 50 Women in Accounting, as well as the founder of Magnetic Bookkeeping and Counseling, financial advisory team. You've got like so much going on, which is just incredible. But tell us a bit about what you do and what brought you to this point in your business in your life.
Yeah, so I've actually been in business since 2015. I've now owned three different companies. The first company I had was from 2015 to 2021, I believe, when another company that I'd started kind of like blew up and I had to put all my focus towards it. So I just decided to go all in into one company and it's just continued to progress. And as you know, like it's addicting to have a business and just to keep going. And I feel like most of your listeners probably here too feel the same, where it's like, I can't ever just do something without thinking of ways to monetize it. It's like so bad. So my first business was actually a bookkeeping and tax firm, and we were kind of generic, and I kind of fell into it because I did personal taxes. Then I really craved doing it more for the businesses because most individuals just want refunds when a business owner really understands why you might want to have tax liability, usually meaning that you're profitable.
Right.
So I started my own firm, and during that process, I really found that I struggle with systems, processes, tech, automation, team building. And it brought me to this point where I was so overwhelmed because nobody in my industry in the accounting space was teaching that. And so that's kind of what sparked the second business, which is called Workflow Queen. And one day someone messaged me and they're like, "We heard you're the Workflow Queen. Can you help us?" And I was like, "Yep, there we go. That's the name."
There you
I wanted
go.
to be Workflow Ninja, but then I was like, it was taken.
Mm,
It
fits
worked
you
out for
perfectly.
me. It just like sung to my ears. Like as soon as I had heard it, I was like, oh my God, that's a perfect name. So I started Workflow Queen, not knowing where it was going to take me. And it just is so crazy to me. At that time, I already had a six-figure business from my firm. And so when I started that Workflow Queen, it's really meant to help bookkeepers and accountants from around the world to implement tech systems automation. And it blew up in my face in the most positive way possible. In like a year and a half, we hit our first seven figures. It was just so crazy. We have courses, educational courses. We have retreats. We have so many different like offers there at that company, and it's specific to the accounting space. Well, being someone that was so immersed in this business, I decided to fully dissolve my first firm and just to go all in on Workflow Queen. And as Workflow Queen grew, I became a part of masterminds, courses, groups of other women who are also course creators and coaches. And in that, I found that a lot of women were really struggling with like cash flow understanding, like their CPA mansplained them. They felt like they were talked down to. Everybody was using big words, and they would do these massive launches, and which is amazing, but then they wouldn't know how to manage the money. And that's what sparked the third company, which is Magnetic Bookkeeping Consulting. I went back to my roots, but we decided not to do the taxes. I had a business partner at the time, but I ended up finding out that she wasn't the right fit for me. And so I actually bought her out about 8 months into that business. And so now I'm the full owner of both companies. And it's just been so crazy. We now help women from around the United States who are making anywhere from 250K to up to eight figures. We're really helping to change the percent of women in business that are making over seven figures, which right now that percent is less than 2%. And I believe more women who have more money have more power. And if we can help them understand that. And that's kind of where I got to this journey. I don't know how this all like happened to me. I feel like it happened so fast, but yet it's like so many years later. It's like 9 years later, and I still can't believe it.
Yeah, so you're bored is what I'm hearing, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes. No, I love it. And my passion is tech systems automation. So I
Mhm.
can speak to the fact that they're hugely valuable
Love
in
it.
business, but it's, if your numbers aren't right at the end of the day,
Mhm.
what are you doing, right?
Yeah.
So in your journey, what would you say are the biggest gaps that you've found that people are having in their business or just don't even think about?
I think it's just they're not looking at everything holistically. And that can be from all types of businesses, and this can relate to really any business owner. Is we always hear online, it's marketing, it's sales, it's your operations, it's this. It's always like you have to have this. If you don't have this, you'll never have success. And I feel like that's just like a nonstop conversation in the space because let's just say that you are a social media manager, but then obviously you're going to say that social media is the most important thing. You could be me, who's like finances are your most important thing.
Right.
I think for me, the biggest gap that I wish most people looked at was like you can holistically look at the whole business to see where are the major gaps across all functions, all quadrants of the business. in order to see how can it all come out together to amplify. Everything does bleed into finances. That's one thing that unfortunately every part of the business will go back to. But if you can understand everything holistically, you can really level up the business. And I wish more people really looked at it from that lens instead of just mainly focused on sales and marketing.
Yeah, for sure. And how do those strategies align, would you say? Like your marketing strategy with your finances, like how would you say they should connect?
Yeah. So when it comes to like the marketing, well, one, it's like if you look back at your goal, let's just say that you have a course creating business and your goal is to hit six figures this year. Well, one, do you have prior data that's going to tell you how many times do you launch and what are their typical results? Like, do you always hit six figures? Do you always hit like 50K, 20K, whatever that looks like? Prior data will do a lot for you. But it's also looking at like, let's take a step back and say, well, how can we create better systems? That way, when we are launching, that we have better things automated, the tech, the team that can support us. That way, it's not all on my plate as a business owner, which is one, going to cost you a little bit more. But at the same time, if you're able to now show up live, let's just say you do a boot camp or you do a free challenge or whatever it is that you do for your launches, you can actually show up authentically and also show up fully yourself because you're not trying to also think about the sequences you're trying to build. And so if you've got these goals and you're looking at everything holistically, how can we trail that back into the marketing? Whether that means when can we launch? When can we, force maybe certain campaigns around service-based businesses? How can we like look at things as, can we even handle a launch right now because we just lost two team members? Or, oh my gosh, now everyone's going through COVID. Now maybe we should be pushing more boot camps because everybody has more time. And I think if you could take a step back and say, what are my goals? What do I actually want from the company? And how can I align all parts of the business with those things?
I love that. And then you can also see, okay, what are things to your point of that we can automate, right? That when you invest a little bit of time up front, you don't have to think about it again, except going back to check your metrics and make sure it's working and how can you improve it. But it's like
Yeah.
one thing that you take off your plate and you don't need a human to do it for you. The humans can focus on the things that you need their intentional attention, right?
Yeah, I love that. I just love automation. Like any chance that we can like, and the thing is, I think a lot of people get really overwhelmed with the idea because I know that you work in this space too in the
Mhm.
automation side. I think a lot of people get this like overwhelm or they want this like instant gratification. And like you said, you do have to like implement it. There's time up front
Right.
to learn things like Zapier or learn like the systems that you are using that have like internal automation. And I think that that's where the overwhelm comes from, where people like have a hard time justifying the fee. We'll just use
Mhm.
Zapier as like the example. Like, I don't want to pay X dollar amounts every month to have Zapier. It's like the reason probably why you're resisting that and you don't see the value in it is because maybe you're not using the system correctly to understand its value and
Mhm.
understand what it could, do for you and what results it can give you.
Right. And to offset the fee, if you're paying $20 a month for Zapier or you're paying X amount for a staff member, like they're not
It
apples to
it just
apples.
outweigh, yeah. It just to me,
Right.
like me and you, when we have this conversation, it's like a no-brainer. But
Mhm.
it's so crazy. I'm sure you meet so many of those people who are like, I don't know, I can't justify. I'm like, you could still have a team member. You're not replacing humans, but
Right.
the humans can now be, like you said, interacting in different ways where I need them to have thoughts. I need them to
Right.
think through or strategize versus an automation tool, like is a no-fail system as long as someone's keeping up with, is it working? Is it going through?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Instead of having them copy and paste things back and forth, they can
Hmm.
provide value into your business.
Yeah.
So many business owners, they're after financial freedom in their business, right? Like what do you see, that people need to get there or like, how does that all tie together?
I think it's having the right people in place. And so this is going to be different for everybody. So, depending on where the listeners are at, let's just say someone is just starting their business journey and they're just getting into the space of being a business owner and making money online or physically, or maybe you're at six figures or seven figures or eight figures. It can go, my advice would really genuinely change across each of them. But I think the big core message is going to be having the right education or people in place. If it's going to be you implementing, is knowing and understanding like what does it mean when someone says cash flow? What does it mean to save money? Like I know that it's like putting money in this bank account, but really what does that mean? Like what strategies do you have to have in place? And sometimes that comes in the form of maybe you taking a course if you're more at the beginning stages versus maybe if you're well off in your business, like you just get to a point where you just no longer want to learn all the things. You'd rather just delegate it to someone who knows it. So you might want to build your financial team. So a lot of our clients that we work with that are at the 7-figure, 8-figure stage, typically will have a financial advisor, which will work on the personal side, which is about, your investments and when is it a great opportunity to have an IRA, 401k, maxing them out. And then they're also working with like a tax strategist, which is someone who can also file the return, but also discussing ways to put your kids on payroll, or let's look at where your home office is. How can we write certain things off? How can we strategize to get you ready for paying that big tax bill? And then working with like maybe a consulting firm or even like someone who's going to do the books, which is the categorization, the getting all the information, the details ready. So I think the big core message is as the business progresses, it's just knowing at what time is the right time to start like maybe asking for help versus maybe right now you can handle it on your own, which at the side hustle phase, it is easy. And I do recommend that people understand their books, understand what's going on with their finances so they get a good grip. But eventually you're going to need to let that go to focus on other parts of the business and be consulted in that arena.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you're looking month to month, what would you say are those key metrics that people need to always have like on the front of their mind?
I think for me, this is going to change for every single business.
Mhm.
It's getting clear on what they need. It's just like KPIs in the business. So if anybody doesn't know what a KPI is, it's a key performance indicator. That can be financial. That can be how many emails are you sending out every month? Like what's the correlation to the finances you're bringing in because of it? There's so many different things. So just get really clear on what do you do? What are the most important things for you? Because we could be in the same, like we could both be owning an accounting firm and both be looking at metrics so different. So for anybody, just holistically, just looking at what's your profit margin and how much of that are you actually keeping. So a lot of people want to have this vanity metric of, oh my gosh, I made 100K. It's like, great, but what are you actually taking home? And I know tons of people who make 100K or even 7 figures, but one company is making, let's just say multiple 6 figures, but it's actually keeping more money than someone who's making 7 figures.
Mhm.
And so looking at the profit margin, and that's just like a quick percentage, you can Google it online. If you don't know what's a good percentage that you should be at, depending on your industry, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to share that with you. Um, Another recommendation is just looking at like the operational standpoint of everything. So like what numbers can we look at that are going to make sense for us to know that we're operationally functioning correctly? That could be things like response time, if that's really important for you, for like customer service. If we're going back to the financial side, how much is it costing you to deliver on your program? So you might be bringing in 100K, but you're spending 50K every year just to hire those coaches, have the VAs doing all the things. And that can be can get more of a complicated calculation, but it does give a lot of clarity on when people question like, Alyssa, should I be, increasing my rates of my programs? And usually it's like, well, are you time tracking to see what people are spending their time on? What's their cost? And when we look at it holistically, maybe we should be increasing the rate of your program.
Yeah. Yeah. And as people are growing and they're becoming more and more profitable, you kind of mentioned it earlier, but what is your advice to those people? Like, you want to make sure that you are able to be profitable, but then there's the tax end of it. And like, what is your perspective on that?
I always recommend, if you can, anywhere from 20 to 30% setting it aside of every dollar you ever make to put into a tax account. Like, don't try to just have one bank account, no matter what stage you're at in business. I really highly recommend this, is at least have 2 accounts, one for like where you're spending your money. And the second one is going to be where you're going to store your taxes. Don't make it easy for you to grab any of that money. And every time you make, every single dollar you make would go, a certain percent will go into that account. So for me, I'm at like a really high tax bracket because of the income I bring in for both businesses. So I'm at a 35% tax bracket, but I'm also an S Corp, which means that a portion of because I pay myself through my company as an employee, will go towards that. So like I have to do my own calculation, and it's a lot of money that gets set aside. Like I pay like a lot in taxes, right? So no matter what, just use a simple calculation. If at the end of the year you pay your taxes and you got money left over in your tax account, then call it a gift. Like go do whatever you want with it. Go play with it. I don't care what you do with it, but just get into the habit of setting it aside, whether you're profitable or not. That's really going to help you ultimately. And the other thing I think a lot of people have a mistake of is that like they're just constantly like not looking at things from like, how do I say this? They're looking at the numbers. So like I had this launch, it's 100K. We're
Mhm.
using the launching because it's a lot easier. We had this really big launch, but it's like, that's great. But not only do you have your regular expenses, you have the designers, all the people that you have obligations to pay because you signed them on like right before the launch, but now also the taxes. And that's why Like we're only so focused on that piece. And so don't scramble around and wait until the end of the year and get this tax bill and then now have to go on an installment plan. And then every year having to go on an installment plan because you're not being proactive. Or like by year 5, you're burnt out because you're constantly paying the IRS.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you're always behind.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Yes. And how would you say mindset plays into your finances? Like they sometimes seem related, but sometimes seem opposite. So what is your perspective there?
For me, I love to think that everybody energetically knows and understands when something feels right in their company. And so, what I mean by this is like, I don't know if this is true for you or anybody really who's listening, but I know that the moments in my like business that people told me that I was crazy for doing what I was going to do, or this crazy marketing strategy, or something that didn't, the industry says is not the norm. Why would you do it this way? When I said, you know what, I'm doing it my way. This is what feels good. I know deep down that my gut is telling me this is going to go right. And I do it every single time I've gone against the grain. It has given me nothing but success almost every single time. And I think that that just goes back to the whole mindset and the energetic side of money and also success is if you innately believe something, your gut has a very powerful way of guiding you in the right direction that sometimes if everybody's telling you you're wrong, yeah, there's great advice out there that's going to tell you like what's the norm, but if you feel it, go for it. The worst that can happen is it just goes south. And then you pick up the pieces, you learn from it and you move forward. And so for me, just really tune into that gut instinct while also listening to the coaches and those people out there who are giving you great advice as well.
Yeah. And one layer on top of that is if you're going against the grain, you now have a natural differentiator, right?
Yep.
You're naturally going to stand out because you're not saying the same things that everybody else is. You're saying what your gut says is right. So you
Yeah.
believe it with your conviction and your energy, and you're naturally going to build trust that way because you believe what it is that you're saying, but you're naturally going to be different, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I love when like I see people in this space, especially women, like we have such like a resilience to us on the way that we just like do things in business and we're just like not afraid to be unapologetic. But I also know what it's like. I mean, I've been in the side hustle phase where I really didn't think my business was where it's going to be and what it's turned into now. And I know that for me, like it was at first like, no, I got to do everything exactly how everyone's saying because like I just don't know what the difference. Also, when you get into like a different phase in business where maybe you have more money or more proof or whatever that looks like, it's easier to take more risks and to kind of go against the grain because you have more confidence and you know that like if it does fail, you still have something to go back to. Just to give like an example, we had in the summer of last year, we did a big launch for one of my group coaching programs. It's a $5,000 offer. And during that launch, we did a boot camp. So the boot camp usually when it's high ticket, so anything over like I would say like 1500 is usually more of the high ticket bucket. And so because it's more high ticket, all of the like gurus in the space and some of my coaches and all the people that like I work closely with were like, Alyssa, you have to charge for this boot camp or else you're not going to get quality leads and or you're not going to get people who are invested in it to move forward. And we set it up with everything set up to charge people. As soon as we launched it, I was like, you know what, guys, we're pulling it. My team, God bless their souls. They were like, God damn it, Alyssa. Like, now we got to go back and like redo this. I was like, we're doing it free. We're pulling it. We're making it happen. I want people to know that this is accessible for them. I don't want them to have resistance by paying. And so I did it. And I felt it inside that like it was going to work. We ended up having a 446K launch.
Nice.
So it definitely worked.
Obviously.
It
Yeah.
was fine. We just got done with another launch for the same program. We just got done like a couple weeks ago as well. Same thing, free boot camp. Everybody still great success from it. And I think that that just goes to show that like you don't always have to do what everybody says is going to be the right way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, brings up the point that the first person that did it the right way did it differently than everybody else. So, and then
Mhm.
everybody else just copied them. So,
Yep.
yeah, no, I totally hear you. And how would you say, as we're growing in the maturity of our business, it's growing bigger and bigger, how does strategic planning tie in with that? And how can people have that vision towards the future?
I think it's like getting really clear on what you want as an individual before we start to even dive into the business. And I think a lot of people kind of skip over that, or they might say, well, I know what I want. Like, I know I want to make this dollar amount, but like sitting down intentionally, whether that's writing like a future letter to yourself to see, like, if you were to look at yourself in 3 years from now, where would you be? What would your office smell like? Where would you be living? Little things like that. I know it sounds so like woo woo, but for me, I love to like mix the woo woo with like the success of business and even finances. But for me, it's like getting really, really super clear. Maybe right now, just the idea of a team doesn't make sense for someone. Maybe the idea of a team is like, I can't live without my team. Like, but at the same time, when I first started my business, there was no way in hell I was ever going to hire anybody because I wanted to wear the badge that I could do everything myself. And now I'm like, get it off my plate. I don't want it on my plate. So if you can get really clear on like as an individual, what do you want? Whether that's I want to fund, be a part or contribute to the family's funds, or I want to buy this car that I really want, or I want to buy this house. Everything starts with them because once you're taken care of, now we can start shifting the business into more of a mission driven business where now we're focusing on how can I impact the world? And now it's beyond you because now you're taken care of. You've bought the house that you want and that you need. You've contributed to your family's funds. And so if you can get really clear on that and you can help yourself in that area, now you can help other people because you've poured into your own cup to now overfill into other people's.
Absolutely. And I know you can help people in a lot of different ways, but can you tell for people that are listening, like, okay, I need this, whatever this is, how can you help people with that?
Yeah. So for one, we work with women specifically in the United States. You have to be at least making 250K annually and beyond. We do that because like to really take advantage of consulting with us and really leveraging like how to align the marketing with the finances and understanding the data, you kind of have to have the money to play with in order to like make the moves that we're going to ask you to make in order to like up level the finances and also afford the team because ultimately, like I said, it's not just us that we recommend working with. It's like financial advisors, tax strategists, all the different people, which you just tell me what your problems are and I will tell you exactly who you need and what you need. I will never sell you into anything that doesn't make any sense is what I can tell from the very beginning. But for us, we offer bookkeeping, financial consulting. Consulting can look like whatever it looks like for you. So you just essentially like, I call it word vomit all your problems, what you have going on in the business. And then we can take a step back and say, how can we build plans, resources, things, and consult you and walking you through whether that's hiring, reevaluating legal docs, like we'll connect you with lawyers. We'll do whatever we need to be that liaison. As far as the book, some people just want compliance, which means like you just want someone to do the bookkeeping, just get it ready. That way, when we tax file, like I don't have to worry, I don't have to stress. We handle that. We do not do any DIY training here at my firm, but I can connect you with someone for any of the listeners who want to DIY it. I can connect you to someone who can help you. Other than that, we do cash flow projections, failed payment systems, pretty much anything around the finances in the business. I like to think that we're not just yet another firm that's going to send you reports. We actually sit down and listen to what our clients are saying and what's happening in the business, whether that mean like, I need to expand. I'm tired of working all these hours. Okay, cool. Let's build that job description. Let's talk through that. How can we like get this to be efficient? Whatever we can do. So we holistically like support in the business as well, but focused within the financial lens.
Yeah. And I love that because so often we're so close to it that it's hard to take that step back and to see the bigger picture and have that bigger vision to be able to move forward strategically. So I think it's super powerful to have somebody like you in their lives and in our lives to be able to accomplish what we want, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And you've accomplished so much both in your businesses, plural, and personally, but how do you define success? What does that look like to you?
I think for me, success is like being able to live my life in the capacity that makes the most sense for me. So I lost a brother I was 15, he was 16, he passed from cancer. And his big thing that he would always say is live life to the fullest. That was like his big thing. And losing someone so young, I realized that I didn't want my life to be, sitting at this cubicle, like just working away and just like eventually just dying and like not really experiencing life. And so for me, like success looks like, can I have enough money to be able to fly myself to the places that I want to go, to visit the places I want to go, to be able to be a part of people's lives in a way that I can to support other people. And so for me, yes, that's like tied to money because like I need money to be able to do those things, but it's the ultimate like the experience that I'm getting on the back end. So that might mean like me becoming a certified skydiver. That might mean be like traveling to Europe randomly for 30 days or buying my travel trailer with my dog for 3 months to just take off around the States. That's what success looks like to me is the experience, but money has to be the driver to get me those experiences. I'm like, unfortunately.
I love that. And it's memories. Like my husband and
Yes,
I, that's what we
memories.
say. Is at the end of the day, like I want the memories of the experiences that I
Mhm.
had, the fun we had,
Yep.
the adventure, all of it. Yeah, I love that.
Yep.
And I'm curious, if you had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would you tell them?
Done is better than perfect. And what I mean by that is I think a lot of people are just like so stressed at like I have to have the perfect website or I have to have the perfect branding photos or like it's literally never going to be the right time and it's never going to feel like it's going to be tomorrow or the next day. It's like me when I'm trying to like work out. It's like, tomorrow will be the next day or like the Monday, you know? It's always how my life goes, but I think that if you just take a step back and say, let me just get this done, even if it might not be what the painted picture I thought in my head I painted, then it's going to be okay. Every time that I've let go of that, it's allowed us to progress forward instead of trying to make it perfect. So just done is better than perfect.
100%. No, yeah, it's really never going to be perfect.
Never, never. I learned that the hard way. Never will be.
Exactly, exactly. So where can people find you online? How can they connect with you?
Yeah, so you can connect with me on Instagram at Magnetic Bookkeeping. You can also go to our website, magneticbookkeeping.com. You can also email my team and myself at support@magneticbookkeeping.com. What I will say to anybody who's going to reach out, I just want you to know that I genuinely want to connect you with the right people. I've got a large network of other accounting firms. Thank God for my other company because I'm well connected in that space. If it's not me, I will connect you to who you need. You tell me what business you run, where you're at in business, what are your needs, and you just word vomit it all on me. Do it on a voice note. I don't care how you do it. If it's not us, I will get you to the right person. I will make that connection. If you're outside of the United States, I also have connections all over the world. So I'm more than happy to connect you as well. So I'm an open resource. And I just want people to know that, like, no matter what, you're going to get support, whether that's in the form of a service or in form of a connection. So just reach out to me.
I love that. Thank you so much. And we'll have all the information for everybody to come check it out. And thank you so much for being on today, Alyssa.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And if you found value in this episode, please do share it. That's how people find us. And you can find me at sevenfigurebuilder.com. And I'll see you on the next episode.